Exxon fully withdraws from Russia after Putin seizes assets.
Here's a summary of the article.
ExxonMobil on Monday said it has fully exited Russia, with the energy giant saying that President Vladimir Putin had expropriated its assets in the country and unilaterally terminated the company's Sakhalin-1 oil project. She didn't disclose whether Exxon received compensation for the assets, but added that Exxon plans to reserve its legal rights under international law in its production sharing agreement to pursue remedies. Russia's move to seize Exxon's assets come after 7 months of negotiations over a transfer of the company's stake in the Sakhalin-1 project, according to Reuters, which first reported on Exxon's move to complete its withdrawal from the country. In March, the energy giant announced it planned to exit Russia in response to the nation's invasion of Ukraine and that it would not make any new investments in Russia. The Sakhalin-1 project, which Exxon has managed since 2005, has generated $16 billion for the Russian government, according to Exxon. Earlier this year, Exxon took a $3.4 billion after-tax charge for its Sakhalin-1 assets. Exxon fully withdraws from Russia after Putin seizes assets.
This post received a score of 47,000, with an upvote ratio of 95%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Exxon basically stood back and watched BP try and sign an agreement to help Russia develop new oil fields. Once the facilities were in place, Russia basically made up some trumped-up tax charges and seized all the assets back from BP. Exxon was smarter and essentially offered Russia a trade via a production services agreement. The implicit understanding here was that Russia wouldn't fuck over Exxon like they did BP because Exxon could just seize Russia's shit in return. Ever since 2014, Exxon saw that sanctions and global opinion were going to turn against Russia, so they've been slowly winding down their operations ever since.
So what happens to those oil facilities in Texas and the Gulf now? Assuming they got to that part.
It's been forever since I researched this, but I believe they got sanctioned in 2014. In 2020, the US government did offer to give them back to Russia in return for Russia vacating Venezuela, but that obviously didn't happen.
Exxon could presumably take them back now, I suppose?
Yes. And Putin formally seized their assets in Sakhalin this month, so I would not be surprised if they made a move to get the old Rosneft assets shortly.
What are your thoughts on Michael Cohen's claim in his book Disloyal that pretty much everything in Russia is owned by Putin and the oligarchs are just his proxies?
100% spot on. If you read the book Putin's Kleptocracy by Karen Dawisha, it spells it out in great detail. It's a mafia state and Putin is one of the richest men in the world. He probably owns half of many major Russian oil companies.
On paper, Putin shouldn't be at all rich. He grew up poor and has worked for the government his whole life. In reality, pick any major Russian company, especially all the military companies, and look into them and you will see Putin owns them either directly or by proxy. Kalashnikov, which makes AKs, was bought by Rostec, which is owned by the government, and the founder of Rostec is none other than Putin. Just look at what Rostec controls. It's everything from fighter jets, pharmaceuticals, weapons, ammo, waste management, security, machining, and even 30% of the world's titanium.
Lendl Global, we're in everything.
The damage Putin did to Russia is going to stay long after the Russian invasion of Ukraine ends. International companies don't like investing in countries which can randomly decide to seize their assets and infrastructure. Even if the Russians shrug off Putin, the long-term consequences of this are going to result in Russia struggling harder for foreign investment. No amount of promises of financial gain can sugarcoat the fears the government might say, "Fuck it, and take your stuff." Nobody would invest in that.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.